Hello YouTube, Bartley back again with a 2012 Volvo. Today I have a pretty involved project. I noticed I was starting to smell some antifreeze a little while back, and I raised the hood up and I was starting to get antifreeze pooling in these small little pockets in the top of the radiator tank. It's plastic. It would only occur under if I had a big load, like 40,000 pounds or 39,000, whatever. So it's a hairline crack somewhere in here. Apparently it's a pretty well-known issue, I guess. Pretty much every dealer that I called had 2 or 3 radiators on the shelf, so they must go out quite frequently. Anyway, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over pretty quickly. As you can see, I've got most of this stuff already done. And I'll preface this by saying this is a 2-person job, preferably 3. And you're going to need some way to hoist or lift the radiator and charge air cooler out. In my case, I have access to my dad's tractor with a front end loader with a fork and a come along. And so the first thing you're going to want to do on this project obviously is drain the coolant out. And now I don't know how other trucks are, but this Volvo has, I don't know if I can get it on video or not. Yeah, there it is right there. Has got a little quick disconnect fitting on the driver's side bottom of the radiator. Okay, and it takes this tool right here. I'd say a tool. It's just a hose with a quick disconnect on it, and it has an air chuck at the other end. I'm not sure what purpose that serves. I do know it drains out really slow. You know, the ideal thing would be to plug that in, let it drain all night, let it drain out overnight. This tool is made by Dorman, and Dorman makes a lot of automotive type tools. And I apologize for not having the part number, but if you Google it, that's the way I found it. It's just Volvo VNL coolant draining tube, and it pulled it right up. And I just took that part number to my local, I think it was a bumper-to-bumper part store, but any part store that sells or that can get Dorman products will be able to get this for you. You know, it's not necessary to have it. I mean, if you had the means to catch all the fluid at one time, you could just simply take one of the hoses off. But you better have something big to catch it, because it takes a lot of antifreeze. So anyway, that's the first thing you want to do, is get your coolant out. Now, the AC condenser sets over here in front of the charge air cooler, and I disconnected. I haven't opened up the lines, and I think I'm going to be able to get by without doing it. I'll let you know at the end of the video. Anyway, so these lines are flexible. They turn into flex hoses down here and on the other side also. So this is one place where you're going to need 2 people to make sure you don't damage the condenser. And it just come up over. If this set down lower, I've got this thing jacked up a little bit already. Anyway, it just comes up over the top of the radiator, and it kind of sets semi-secure up here on the top. As far as just disconnecting the radiator, you've got obviously the coolant tank. I've done something with it. It's over here. Coolant tank, right there. It's it's pretty self-explanatory. It's got like 4 bolts across the top, and a hose that comes down and bolts in right here. And of course it bolts in here and then across the top. You get that out of your way. You have to take obviously the flex lines off for the charge air cooler. They're on both sides. They hook up here and then over here. Same procedure on the other side. Then you have okay, this thing that's laying on the ground here is the power steering cooler. Okay, it just mounts up there in front of the radiator. It has a few bolts holding the bracket up. This bracket right there, and they're easy to see. And it will just lay down on the ground in front. And then obviously you got your big hose, lower hose on the bottom. And then you have 2 hoses just like this that go in to 2 elbow fittings. There's one there, one right here. Okay, now these things have little plastic U-shaped keepers. I'm just going to demonstrate here with my fingers. The clip clips in over the hose, and then it's got a sleeve right here that slides back. The sleeve will slide that way, and what that does is allows you then to squeeze these plastic ears. And I learned a new trick here. As you can see, I have a small zip tie wrapped around these plastic ears. What that does is it tightens all of them at the same time. If you do that, this thing will slip right out of this hole. It's brilliant. I've never seen anybody do that. It might have been done before, but anyway, it works great. It beats the heck out of buying a tool. I'm sure there's a tool for that. So anyway, those have to be taken off. There's 2 of them. Then there's a mounting rubber. This is rubber in between here. There's 3 bolts that go. One of them goes here, one goes right there, and then there's one around it. There's 3 on each side, so you got for a total of 6. And so those have to be removed. And that's everything on the bottom. That's all there is your power steering cooler, the transmission lines, and these 3 bolts that are on either side. Okay. So we've got everything from the bottom. The next thing is the main, what I call the main mounting bolt, is right here. Comes up through here, and it's a full bolt. In other words, you got to hold it from the back side with a long socket, deep weld socket. Yeah, you get that off, and there's on the bottom of the reservoir tank, you got a sensor that tells when the coolant gets too low, and it plugs in, right there. Just be sure you got that unplugged before you jerk the reservoir tank out. This has a plastic shroud, and I'm not sure that I would have had to take that loose. I'm thinking now I would have been able to leave it on, because what we have here is a really flexible seal, rubber seal. Okay, now I've went ahead and taken these bolts loose from the radiator frame all the way down. There's 4 of them, And I'm not completely sure that I would have had to done that. I think it would probably just all pull out away from this rubber seal. So yeah, and like I said, I've already started raising this thing up. So I'm going to pause this, see if I can get this thing the rest of the way out, and then I'll cut you guys back in on it, and we'll look at the rest of it. Okay, I'm back. I've got it out, as you can see, and I think as it turns out I could have left that shroud on there, so I'll just bolt it on when I put everything back together before I set it in there, set the unit back in there. So this is my setup, and my new radiator is right here. Apparently, from what I was told at the dealer, you can get these two different ways. You can get them that's already in the metal frame, or you can get them that are not in the metal frame. I opted to get one that was already in the metal frame. You can save some money by not doing that, but I don't know. I just figured that the metal frame was fatigued after 800,000 miles, so I'll just get the one that's already in the new frame. So what I've got left to do now is pull the charge air cooler, intercooler, whatever you want to call it, off of the frame. It is held on by 2 bolts right here, and then 1 bolt down here, and that's all that holds it on. Okay, so once I get those off, that thing will just come off, and then I will release this old radiator from the chain, drag it off to the grass, get my new one out, string it up, and then bolt the intercooler, charge air cooler up, and then bolt my shroud on. And I think I'll have to, these fittings right here, they're elbow fittings. I think I'll have to take these off of my old radiator, put them back on the new one. I think that's all that I'm going to have to change out. But anyway, I'm going to continue on. Okay, so I'm back. I wanted to point out a few differences in my radiators. I don't know if they've tried to, sometimes they will alter the design to try to improve it. But anyway, what you're looking at now is my old radiator, and as you can see, it's got X-brace bolted into the frame of it. And also it's open down here on the bottom. There's no metal frame on the bottom or the top. It's just open plastic, and I think that's the reason they had to put the X-brace in the middle. Now my new one, it has no X-brace and doesn't have any bolt holes for an X-brace. But what they did do, and this is the top of the radiator, they've got a metal piece of metal channel bolted in on the top. So yeah, so they have certainly altered the design of this a little bit. Anyway, so it don't look like I'm gonna have to be putting the X-brace on here. Anyway, just wanted to point that out before I went any further.